I couldn't recognize her. One of her legs was up in the air in a kicking position. That's not nobody that's just laid in their bed and died.
I don't know who she went out with. What transpired there, I have no idea. But I'm going to find out. So if you're out there, you're going to get caught. You're messing with the wrong person.
In September 2023, a nightmare unfolded inside a luxury Los Angeles apartment when a famous model was found dead in the fridge after inviting a wrong man. At 3:30 p.m. on September 12th, police forced their way inside after worried family members begged for a welfare check of a famous model after she had vanished for days. When officers stepped inside, they would be met with a scene so horrifying it would haunt them forever. Hidden inside a refrigerator was her lifeless body. She was bound, gagged, and beaten, and intoxicated with illicit substances. As detectives worked through the gruesome scene, a haunting truth emerged. This wasn't the work of a stranger breaking in off the street. The killer was a man she had trusted enough to live inside her home. And the most disturbing detail? He didn't just end her life. He left her family taunted, using her own phone to mock them after the murder. This is the life and tragic death of Melissa Mooney.
We can't even see her. The people at the mortuary don't even want us to see her because he said it's traumatic. The guy at the mortuary started crying for us because of that. How traumatic it is. And it's like, why would someone do this? You know? Like, why would someone do this to her?
Melissa Marie Mooney was born on October 16, 1991, and at just 31 years old, she had already built a life full of ambition, hope, and warmth. After landing a role with a prominent real estate firm, she moved into a luxury apartment in downtown Los Angeles just a month before her death. It was supposed to be a fresh chapter in her life, one filled with independence, success, and new opportunities. She was smart, beautiful, the kind of woman you'd expect to see gracing the cover of a magazine. With her striking features and natural confidence, it was no surprise when she pursued a career in modeling. Melissa's journey into the industry felt almost inevitable. She had the look, the ambition, and the charisma to make her stand out. Beyond her physical beauty, she carried herself with a poise that made people take notice, and her passion for fashion and self-expression gave her an edge. But for Melissa, modeling wasn't just about appearances. It was a way to share her personality, connect with others, and inspire confidence in those who looked up to her.
Come on, girls. Mom, go pro us. Go pro us. Where you gonna pop the bottle? Pop the bottle. Pop the bottle. Pop the bottle. What dancer?
Alongside real estate, she pursued part-time modeling, hoping to one day expand it into a full-time career, combining her business acumen with her love for fashion. But Melissa wasn't only building her career in real life. She was also crafting a presence online. On Instagram, she shared content that highlighted both her modeling work and her ventures in real estate. With over 100,000 followers, her page reflected not only her professional ambition, but also her vibrant personality. She wasn't just curating photos for aesthetics. She was using the platform to inspire, to connect, and to show glimpses of her journey. Friends, colleagues, and even strangers admired her confidence and the way she seamlessly blended beauty, professionalism, and authenticity. Her sister, Jordan Pauline, a rising pop star, often celebrated her online as well, with the two frequently posting about their unbreakable bond. To Jordan, Melissa wasn't just a sister. She was her best friend, biggest supporter, and safe space. Their closeness was something family and friends often remarked on, describing them as inseparable. To those outside her family, Melissa was someone who left a mark wherever she went. Friends said she had the kind of energy that made you feel seen and valued. She was generous with her time and her heart, always lifting up the people around her.
You guys gotta get closer together to see about this.
Whether it was a client looking for their dream home, a fellow model backstage at a photo shoot, or a friend going through hard times, Melissa had a way of making people feel lighter, more confident, and cared for. She had so many plans for her future. She dreamed of growing her career in real estate, pursuing more modeling opportunities, and eventually building a family of her own. She wanted stability, success, and happiness, things she worked tirelessly toward every single day. But tragically, that same generosity would lead her to her death after opening her door to the wrong man. On September 6, 2023, Melissa went out with friends to a bar in Los Angeles. They returned to her luxury apartment, and later that morning, she even made a FaceTime call with her cousin, looking relaxed and in good spirits. That call would turn out to be the last time anyone ever heard her voice. Melissa seemed to vanish without a trace. At first, her absence went unnoticed, but as days passed, the silence grew noticeable. Melissa had always been reliable, quick to respond to texts, calls, and especially her sister, Jordan. By September 10th, her family knew something was terribly wrong.
Just knew something was off, like her messages wasn't delivering and stuff.
We're just confused, like this is unlike Melissa. Like usually she answers, like, it was just a little concerning. And my mom, she was just super worried.
Her sister grew frantic and reached out to police, begging them to perform a welfare check. Officers knocked on Melissa's apartment door, but seeing no obvious signs of danger, they left without forcing entry. They assured the family that everything looked normal and suggested that perhaps she just needed space or had stepped away for a few days. But her family wasn't convinced. They knew Melissa. She wouldn't disappear, not without telling someone, and she certainly wouldn't ignore her sister for that long. The days dragged on, filled with unanswered calls, sleepless nights, and a growing dread that something unimaginable had happened. Friends began checking her social media, hoping for any sign of life, but her accounts had gone quiet. A silence that was completely out of character for someone so connected and active online. By now, her family's desperation had turned into panic. They pressed authorities harder, insisting that something wasn't right. But with no new leads, the mystery only deepened. The silence continued, and with each passing day, the fear of what might have happened to Melissa grew heavier, until finally, they couldn't wait any longer. On September 12th, Melissa's mother reached her breaking point. Days of silence, unanswered calls, and mounting fear pushed her to demand another welfare check. This time, the police took her plea seriously. But inside, police would uncover a horror they would never forget. With the help of the building manager, they entered using a spare key. At first glance, everything appeared deceptively normal. The apartment was clean, her belongings neatly in place, but something about the kitchen told a different story. Food sat out on the counter as though she had stepped away mid-meal, never to return. That small detail instantly felt wrong to investigators. Then came the discovery that froze everyone in the room. A dark pool of blood seeped from beneath the refrigerator. A dread heavy in their chests, officers opened it, and what they found was beyond comprehension. Inside lay Melissa's body. She was gagged, bound with electronic cords, and semi-naked in only her underwear. Her positioning and the brutality inflicted upon her told investigators they were staring at the aftermath of a vicious and deliberate attack. The signs of physical violence made it clear that she had endured a horrifying ordeal before her life was taken. The sheer cruelty of the crime sent shockwaves far beyond the walls of her building. Neighbors who had seen Melissa just days before were stunned, unable to reconcile the vibrant young woman they knew with the horrifying news unfolding inside her apartment. The gruesome discovery didn't just devastate her family, it horrified an entire city. For her sister Jordan, the news was earth-shattering. She had been calling and pleading for updates, never imagining that the silence meant Melissa had already been gone for days. But as the reality of her death spread, so did fear. How could a young woman in a secure luxury apartment in the heart of Los Angeles fall victim to such brutality? The fact that her killer had not yet been identified left the community shaken and desperate for answers. But as horrific as her murder was, the truth behind it would prove to be even more disturbing. What investigators uncovered next would take this case into darker territory than anyone could have imagined. The next hours saw forensic teams combing through the apartment, noting distressing injuries. Blunt force trauma to her face, head, back, and left arm. Evidence she had fought. The autopsy wasn't able to pinpoint a single cause of death, but ruled it homicidal violence. Toxicology confirmed she had alcohol and illicit substances in her system, suggesting she may have been vulnerable when attacked.
Disturbing details revealed in the newly released autopsy results of 31-year-old model Melissa Mooney. The medical examiner has ruled the cause of death as homicidal violence.
But that wasn't all investigators found. On top of the brutality, Melissa's phone, laptop, and a designer bag had been stolen. The fact that the refrigerator was closed and the door locked behind the perpetrator implied a chilling level of calculation. It was meant to hide the body and mislead investigators. As for Melissa's family, they were left devastated. They were not only mourning her loss, but now faced the cruelty of receiving messages from her own phone, messages sent by her killer. Her sister, Jordan Pauline, took to Instagram in heartbreak, confessing that she never in a million years imagined writing such tragic words. She pleaded for justice. Her cousin Bailey later recalled how absolutely out of character it was for Melissa to go silent for so long. Adding to the confusion, the family believed she was 2 months pregnant. Officials found no evidence of pregnancy in the autopsy, and it remains unclear why the family held that belief. After the initial shock, investigators would find a clue in security footage. On September 6th, the last day Melissa was seen alive, she appeared normal on camera, but on September 7th, the footage would show a chilling sight. An unknown man using her key fob to enter the elevator. The surveillance footage gave detectives a face to chase, a man casually entering Melissa's apartment with her own keys, carrying plastic bags, and leaving with the door locked behind him. For investigators, this was no random break-in. This was someone with access, someone she knew, and someone she trusted. Someone who used Melissa's trust against her. But just when police were working to identify this mystery figure, another tragedy struck. 2 days before Melissa's body was discovered, 32-year-old Nicole Nikki Coates was found dead in her apartment less than a mile away. Like Melissa, Nicole was an aspiring model. Her body was found in her bed, though, unlike Melissa, there were no immediate signs of physical assault. Media headlines exploded. 2 young women, both in modeling, both found dead in their Los Angeles apartments within days of each other. Whispers of a serial killer spread like wildfire online. However, police urged caution. They insisted there was no forensic evidence linking the 2 cases, dismissing the idea of a single predator. Nicole's autopsy later ruled her death an accidental overdose of alcohol and drugs, but her family didn't accept it. They believed her posture, one leg bent as if she'd been kicking in defense, proved otherwise. Still, officially, investigators moved forward with Melissa's case alone. But then, little did they know, the story was far from over. Detectives began piecing together Melissa's final days. Friends told them she had recently allowed someone to stay with her in her luxury downtown apartment. This person, they said, had been down on his luck, and Melissa, always generous, offered him a place to stay. That man was 41-year-old Magnus Daniel Humphrey. It didn't take long for detectives to realize this man may not be so innocent. A background check revealed he had a staggering criminal history. In 1999 in Illinois, Humphrey was arrested for aggravated assault, though the charges were later dropped. In 2002, he was arrested in Minnesota on drug possession and distribution charges. By 2009, he was convicted in Minnesota of second-degree felony assault and prohibited from possessing firearms. In 2013, he was again convicted in Minnesota, this time for third-degree felony assault. Not only that, he had even served time in federal prison. Over the years, he also faced charges for false imprisonment, aggravated robbery, harassment of women, and multiple drug-related offenses. Despite this record, Melissa's family had never heard of him before. While many of these cases ended in dismissals or reduced charges, the pattern of violence was undeniable. According to prosecutors, Melissa had opened her home to Humphrey out of trust and compassion, but that trust would be brutally betrayed. On November 3, 2023, nearly 2 months after Melissa's brutal death, police tracked Magnus down in Minneapolis, Minnesota. With cooperation from federal marshals, he was arrested and extradited back to Los Angeles. The news of his capture rippled through Melissa's community. For weeks, residents of her building had lived in fear, locking doors and glancing over their shoulders, terrified that the killer might still be among them. Now there was finally a face to the nightmare, and disturbingly, it was a man who had once lived inside the very same building. Yet, even with the arrest, unsettling questions remained. What exactly was Magnus's relationship to Melissa? Was he a friend she trusted, a romantic partner, or simply someone she allowed into her life out of compassion? Authorities have not confirmed the nature of their conviction. What they have revealed, however, paints a chilling picture. Magnus allegedly beat Melissa, bound her with electrical cords, stuffed her inside her refrigerator, and stole her belongings, including her phone, laptop, and designer bag. Investigators believe this wasn't a crime of passion, but one of brutal control and calculated cruelty. And as if the violence itself wasn't enough, Magnus allegedly went a step further by using Melissa's own phone to send cruel, taunting messages to her grieving family. For relatives desperate for answers, it was like being haunted by Melissa's silence, only now twisted by the hands of a man accused of ending her life. When news of the arrest reached Melissa's family, emotions were mixed. Relief that someone was in custody, rage at the betrayal, and grief that no amount of justice could ever bring Melissa back. At Magnus Humphrey's arraignment, prosecutors didn't hold back. They stated plainly that Melissa had welcomed Magnus into her home, and in return, he had subjected her to unimaginable cruelty. He gagged her, bound her hands and feet with wires, beat her, and left her stuffed inside a refrigerator to be discovered days later by police. Prosecutors also argued that unchecked violence culminated in Melissa's death. Magnus Humphrey was ordered to remain in custody without bail while awaiting trial. If convicted, he could face life in prison without parole. The family insisted that nothing less would be acceptable. But then came the question everyone was asking: why? Why did Magnus kill Melissa? Some speculated financial motives. Melissa's stolen designer bag, laptop, and phone were never recovered. Others pointed to control, violence, or even rage after a personal falling out. Prosecutors said the exact motive may never be fully understood. What mattered was that Melissa was dead and Magnus was accused of putting her there. Melissa's murder wasn't just a single act of violence. It raised larger questions about safety, trust, and justice. How could someone with Humphrey's background slip through the cracks again and again? And why did Melissa, a woman so full of life, have to pay the price? In late September 2023, 31-year-old Melissa Mooney was laid to rest. Family and friends gathered, many wearing white to symbolize peace and justice. Flowers covered her casket, but the grief in the room was heavier than anything visible. Friends described her as the girl who lit up every room, and the dreamer who always believed tomorrow would be better. But then, the harshest reminder came: Melissa's unborn child, if the family's claims were correct, was buried with her. Not only that, Melissa's family said she was just starting her new life in Los Angeles, with dreams of expanding her real estate career and returning to modeling. Instead, her life was brutally cut short. Melissa Mooney's murder is more than just another true crime story. It's a cautionary tale about trust, safety, and the cracks in the justice system. She was a 31-year-old woman With a promising career, a supportive family, and dreams that stretched far beyond Los Angeles, she should have been free to chase those dreams. Instead, her life ended violently at the hands of someone she trusted. Her family, friends, and community continued to grieve, holding on to the hope that justice will soon be served.
Justice looks like everyone involved is persecuted, and we're bringing light to my sister so she's able to finally rest and just get these monsters in jail where they belong and to stay there.
For them, justice is not just about accountability, it's about honoring her memory and ensuring her light is never forgotten. My deepest condolences go out to Melissa's family and loved ones. May they find strength in the love she shared, comfort in the memories they hold, and healing in knowing that her story continues to touch lives beyond her own. What do you think about this? Let us know what you think in the comments below, and if you found this story intriguing, please like, share, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this.